Hey, what's up guys? This is r/EntitledParents. Before starting off, I just want to say I now have a good mic and the audio should be better. And I also want to say, if you like my videos, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get right into it. So first up, some information. I'm 30 years old and I'm 6 feet tall. I'm currently losing weight, but yes, my weight as of right now is 291 pounds. Last 4 years, I've lived with depression after losing my daughters, only 5 years old, to a drunk driver, which is why I take the bus. I no longer trust others in traffic. Unfortunately, I let myself go and gained weight during my depression. Now, onto the story. I was waiting on the bus on my way home from the gym. When the bus arrived, it was pretty full as usual around 3 p.m. on Fridays. I luckily managed to find an empty 2-seater. Now, just to remind you, I'm 6 foot and 291 pounds, so in other words, I took up pretty much the entire 2-seater. I was sitting listening to music, trying to ignore the fact that my entire body was hurting after walking 7 miles and several muscle exercises, when suddenly a lady comes on carrying a child. From the looks of it, the child was maybe 8 years old. I would have no issue letting her sit next to me, and I even scooted over closer to the window, trying to give what space I could. She then motioned for me to take off my headset, and what followed is the most sickening behavior I have ever seen from a person in my entire life. Entitled Mom, OL, was the old lady in the row behind me. Would you please mind moving so me and my child can sit? Me, not at all, and I moved closer to the window. Get out of the seat. Me, why would I do that? There's clearly room for you and your child. City bus was not at a high speed, so I could not see a danger in the child sitting on the parent's lap. No, I want the whole row because if this bus makes a hard turn, you'll squash me and my child. Me, trying to think of the fact that she might just be stressed carrying this kid around. I'm sorry, but I can't stand right now. I just got on the bus a few stops over at the gym. You? At the gym? Don't sit here and lie to me. It's clear you don't work out. Me, I'm sorry, but I do, and you could sit if you want, but I'm staying. Entitled Mom turns to one of the many fine, well-trained men on the bus, asking if they would tell this fat retard to move so she could sit with her child. The man ignores her. At this point, she could have sat down minutes ago, and in comes the old lady. Old lady, miss, sit your ass down or kindly let this man know you don't need his seat. He's clearly making efforts to accommodate you, despite his size, but rather you stand here and shame him for being overweight. Looks at the old lady as if she'd broke the law and tells her to mind her own business. Old lady tells me to make myself comfortable again because she won't be using the seat. Me, oh, I'm not even worried. Maybe someone else could sit here. Then bursts out saying, oh, you assume someone else wants to sit next to your fat fucking retarded ass. Old lady interrupts saying, young lady, would you stop using such words? Tells the old lady that if men like me would just kill themselves, the world would be a much better place, because if she sat down, I would have no self-control. I would be feeling her up, because it's the only contact of a female I would ever have. Suddenly, a voice rings over the speaker as the bus stops. The bus driver tells the lady to get off the bus, or the driver would have her removed. Reluctantly walks off the bus, showing me the finger the whole time, while I thank the old lady beside me. And she says, if only my son had tried losing weight, maybe he would have still been alive, but she could not stand the behavior of this lady. This story takes place a while back when I was 17. Following some abdominal pain, doctors discovered I had kidney stones. One of them had blocked my kidney, causing it to swell considerably, so I was taken into a hospital for treatment. I was placed on the teenage ward. Kidney stones are incredibly painful, and at this point I'd already had 2 surgeries, so I was extremely doped up on painkillers. My morphine was administered by IV, but I also had to take tablets several times a day. One night, a kid was brought in with severe breathing difficulties. After being stabilized, he was transferred to the teenage ward too. Because of the severity of his condition and his age, 14 I believe, his mother, the entitled mom, was given permission to stay overnight with him. He was brought onto the ward at approximately 1 a.m. and put into the bed next to mine. The noise of his arrival woke me up and my body realized I hadn't had any painkillers for several hours. I tried to find my call button but could barely move due to the pain and managed to knock it off my bed instead, so I started moaning in pain trying to find it. The EM flings open the curtain between the 2 beds and stares at me. I ask her to call the nurse for me, but she just stands there glaring at me. I finally got a hold of my call button and the nurse comes over. Before I can get out a word, the EM starts complaining to the nurse at full volume that I'm making too much noise. I'm disturbing her precious angel's sleep, that at 17 I should be able to deal with the pain, etc, etc. I'm in tears from the pain by this point, and the other kids are waking up from the noise she's making, so the sister, head nurse, politely tells her to shut up. I'm given another dose of painkillers and manage to doze off again, and all is well for a few hours. Come morning, my doctor comes in to check on me as part of his rounds. I had a renal specialist as well as the general pediatric doctor. The EM corners him before he can reach me and starts lecturing him about how I'm clearly a disturbance and he needs to sort me out. My doctor is luckily amazing and firmly but politely tells her to take a hike. A few hours later, I'm given several of my tablets to take and the EM blows a fuse. She goes over to the nurse again and starts complaining that I'm clearly a drug addict who's faking it for painkillers. She starts demanding that I be transferred to an adult ward as I'm a bad influence to the other children. The head doctor overhears this and is completely baffled. He points out the medicine I'm taking is all prescribed and I'm doing nothing to disturb the other children as I'm spending all day curled up in bed watching TV. The EM changes tactics and starts complaining the shows I'm watching are sinful and a 14-year-old boy shouldn't be next to a 17-year-old girl. I turn my TV screen over to reveal I'm binge watching Disney movies and the EM goes bright red. Doesn't stop there though, as she starts demanding her darling boy be put into a side room for peace and quiet as the other children are too noisy. The doctor declines this request as side rooms are reserved for critically ill children and her son has now stabilized and is in fact one of the few running around the ward disturbing others. My mom came in to visit me just after this and the EM attempts a new tactic by first telling my mom that the doctors are overdosing me and I should be taken off the morphine, and then telling my mom I'd be happier in an adult ward instead of around little children. My mom tells her to get lost, a lot less politely than the doctors did. Luckily, the EM's request to stay the second night was declined as her son was stable and he ended up being discharged the next day. I still have no idea why she hated me so much. So, for a bit of backstory, I work at a local theme park and we have a ride that goes straight up, then down, loop-de-loop, etc. I was going about my normal day, measuring people, letting people on, telling parents their kids are too small, etc. I've dealt with entitled parents before, but this one's a whole nother story. It was one of the most infuriating I have. Me, hey kid, I'm going to need to measure you. I measure entitled kid, and sure enough, he wasn't tall enough. I say to his mother that he can't get on the ride, and her face goes bright red. What do you mean he can't get on the ride? I go and let the ride run as I have time limits. Me, I'm really sorry, but your son is too small. He'll fall right through. At this specific park, we have chairs with a special kind of lock, and I can get arrested for letting your son on. EM, no he won't. I'll be right next to him. Me, he's under 1.2 meters tall. I legally can't let him on, ma'am. Entitled kid, Mommy, I want to go on. Entitled mom, and you will get on. I demand to speak with your manager. I went into the ride box and called my supervisors. He arrived shortly and gave them a pass to go to the restaurant and get a free kids meal. He walked off and the mother apologized. I thanked her for apologizing, but realized her kid wasn't with her. Another mother was in the line and told me he was on the car. I walked over to the other side of the car, and sure enough, he was on the ride. Me, entitled mom, why is your kid on the ride? EM, he wanted to ride it. I again call my supervisor, who advised me to call the police, which I do. The police arrive, and the mother is charged with child endangerment and assault. Turns out she was beating other employees at the park. The kid was put into his father's custody, and he should have a better life. If you got this far, I just want to say thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you could leave a like or maybe subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you on the next video.